Walk with me for a few minutes. So to state the obvious, there's a whole lot of change going on right now. And I think change is affecting every area of our life, but being that most of us spend a lot of time in what we call work or career or our job or our business, I'm willing to bet there's a whole lot of change going on right now for you, maybe personally, definitely the people around you when it comes to our work. And it's on my mind and it's on my heart this morning to want to have a conversation with all of you. And what I mean by change in work, I bet some of you or those around you are in situations right now where your work is changing, meaning you're doing the same thing. Maybe you're working in the same place. Maybe you have the same job or business or role in a same company. But given the dynamics of what's happening in the world today, that work is changing, right? It's having to adapt. It's having to maybe reinvent. It's having to adjust. It's having to transform in order to continue in the situation or dynamics that we're in today. How many of you right now are in a situation where your work is changing? You're still with the same company. You still maybe have the same role, but what you're doing and how you're doing it on a day-to-day is changing, maybe slightly or even maybe dramatically. If you're in that situation where your work is changing, give me an all capital yes in the comments below. And I think there's a lot of us out there where our work is changing, and that makes sense given the fact that the world is changing and companies have to adapt. The other bucket isn't necessarily that your work is changing. Maybe you're in a situation where you're changing your work, which is another very likely scenario given where we're at today. And it's crazy. It's crazy. I know here in LA, we're going back on shutdown. It seems like the governor's issued some more directions where even more types of businesses have to stay shut. And I'm just sitting here through a business owner lens, right? Through an entrepreneurial lens, trying to put myself in the situation of, wow, if that was my business, I don't know how long I could last, right? Having to keep your door shut and customers can't come in and you can't operate. Like, there's so many companies that can only go so long hanging on. And my heart goes out to a lot of the entrepreneurs and business owners that's their livelihood. Obviously, all of the teams and all of the staff and all of the employees that are a part of those organizations. And it's a serious state. It's a serious state. And what's crazy is I wish, I felt that it was going to get better soon, but all indicators right now say it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, and we don't necessarily have an end in sight right now. And I know that's not just here in Los Angeles, and I know that's not limited to just a certain category. I mean, I think that's happening all over the world, and it might not be a governor saying you can't. It might just be the situation we're in and how we're having to operate is making the way we used to work less viable, less effective. How many of you know people right now that, are a part of companies that are being shut down, being furloughed, doing dramatic reduction in forces, employee, reductions, maybe even fully shutting their doors. And it's happening at a large scale right now. We're watching the unemployment numbers continue to go up. So I think a second big category that is affecting people and will continue, unfortunately, in the near future, most likely, is not just the work is changing, but we're having to change work. How many of you know people right now that are having to look for a whole new direction? I have people close to me that have done amazing in certain categories and certain careers, some of the highest level in their sectors, that are having to totally change lanes, that are having to go a totally different direction, or having to pivot at a point in life where maybe they weren't planning on pivoting or finding something new. We're in a total state right now of transformation, right? A total state of having to adapt. And that's what I mean by changing work and work changing. How many of you guys know people right now that are looking for totally different work? They're looking to change their work completely out of necessity more than anything else. If you know people, give me an all capital yes in the comments. So I'm talking about change, and I want to talk a little bit this morning about change in work or work changing, and how to approach either of those situations, how to approach being in, a different seat in the same place, and what that means now that it's different than maybe what you were doing, how you were doing it not too long ago, or having to find a totally different seat in a totally different place, and how to approach that could be a step into an unknown, right? A step into uncertainty. And I want to talk about 4 things that I try to look for personally as a return in the work that I do. And I think if we focus on these 4 things, it can help create the right perspective on how to approach either of those situations, how to approach you yourself, right, having your work change, or you yourself having to change your work when it can be a time of, unknown and uncertainty. So I want to cover those 4 things. I think it'll help either bucket. And if you're one of the rare people right now that is in the same seat, in the same place, doing the exact same thing, the exact same way, I'd be curious what you're doing, because I think the world has changed. But even if you're in the place where you feel you're doing the exact same thing, the exact same way, I bet today's conversation will help and will enlighten. Before we jump into the 4 things, hey, I'm going to ask, who's out there? Who's with me? Don't be shy. Open up the comment thread and say hello. It is a beautiful day. I'm at the one of the peaks here, Santa Monica Mountains. You can see the cloud layer sitting over the sea. We got a sea of clouds today. For those of you guys watching the video down there below. And hey, I love that you're walking with me. I love our time together. I love that we got like an international audience. It's been crazy to see where everybody's from. Say hello, say where you're from. Tell me how you're doing, what's new, how you feeling. I want to know. I do care. I love seeing the reoccurring names on our morning walks together. I'm trying to do these live on Mondays and Wednesdays around 7 o'clock Pacific time. So if you ever want to catch it live, set the alarm, maybe go for a stroll, go for a walk at the same time. And if you catch it live, let me know. If you catch the replay, we still love you. And if you're brand new to the squad, welcome. And if you are brand new, here's the only thing I ask is, hey, don't just stand there quiet. Don't just walk silent. Hey, participate, collaborate. We're having a dialogue here, a conversation. The point is just to get your brain maybe thinking a different way, ask some critical questions, shift some perspective, but then collaborate with everybody that's with us. And your opinion matters. It matters to me. It matters to everybody reading the comments. So chime in, agree, disagree, alternative point of view. We welcome all of it. And I do read all of the comments out there and look forward to your perspective on the conversations that we have as we're walking together these mornings. So kind of diving into the topic at hand, talking about work. So changing work or work changing. I said I'd give you four things that I look for, and I suggest that maybe you look for right now, regardless of what bucket you're in. The first is rather obvious when it comes to our work. What do we want in return? And the first thing that probably comes to your mind is the first thing that comes to my mind, which is, well, money, right? The point of work is you exchange, right, your time, your skill sets, your value to get some sort of monetary compensation, and that's important. So the number one thing in the seat that you're sitting in right now is obviously we put our time in a direction so we can be compensated financially, and that's important no matter who you are. You don't have to be an extremely money-motivated person or money-driven person. If you are, that's awesome. But even if you're not, we all have to realize that in today's day and age, that's an absolute necessity. And you have to make sure that the value exchange is fair, that the time and energy and effort you are putting in, you are getting returned or reciprocated, right, in a way that you feel is fair and is a way that allows you to continue to put your best effort forward. And, the income you should be getting obviously should, number one, meet whatever your current ends meet is, whatever your current lifestyle is, whatever your current situation that you have to pay the bills, keep the roof over the head, support the kids, right? You got to make sure that you have income coming in that is fair. And, I'm a firm believer that, money is an exchange for the value that you provide. Always try to add more value than you feel you're getting in return. And if you do that, you're going to find that you get offered seats where the income continues to flow. But you got to make sure you're in a seat right now where, monetarily, it's allowing you to sustain the lifestyle that you want, and obviously have aspirations for growth, the ability to have some sort of upside, the ability for it to grow. But that's an obvious first and foremost when it comes to the work that we're putting in. Make sure that you're getting compensated, right, fairly for the effort that you're bringing to the organization, the company, and the brand. But here's the thing, there's more than just money that we get in return. And I'm a firm believer that, you have to check that box. That box, has to make sense. But it can't stop at that box when it comes to what we do for work. And if you do stop at that box, I don't think you're ever going to get to a place where maybe you're putting your best self forward, you're giving all you can, you're contributing all you can. I think there has to be other things that you're looking for in return. So outside of just the financial situation, I think the second thing we're looking for in return has to be growth. Growth. And when I say growth, I mean personal and professional growth. You guys, it is built into our human DNA for us to progress, right? For us to constantly improve, for us to pursue better, right? If we're not growing, by definition, we are dying. And a lot of times we find ourselves in the first part of life forced in a growth environment because we're around school and teachers and education and everything is fresh and new and novel. So every day we're growing and learning and expanding. But as we transition out of the school system designed around that into a workforce, right, and into adulthood, a lot of times we find ourselves in environments where growth is not automatic, meaning that if we don't put intentionality into what we're doing to pursue better, a lot of times we might find ourselves being stagnant and not only realizing it. So when it comes to our work, right behind income, right behind money, we should be looking for a return in our growth. What do I mean by that? How are you improving your knowledge? What are you learning? What can you learn every single day in the seat that you're sitting in? What type of skills are you developing? Are you expanding, right, every single day in the seat that you're sitting in? And what type of experiences, right, are you adding to your memory book, right? What type of experiences are you adding to your lifetime line because of the seat that you're sitting in? And guys, I would put those things, the knowledge that we're building, the skills that we're building, the experiences that we are collecting, right up there with the income, right up there with the income. And in many cases, guys, if you focus on the second bucket and extracting as much knowledge, as much skills, as much experience as possible, you're going to find that it affects the income you're able to make in the seat that you're currently sitting in when it comes to upward mobility, adding more value, becoming a linchpin, right? Or growing a skill set that makes you more marketable in other lanes and other companies and other brands in the future. So I urge you to ask yourself not only, hey, am I getting paid what I'm worth, right? Am I getting paid what I need? Am I getting paid enough to keep my current lifestyle the way that I want it? Right behind that has to be, what can I learn? What can I develop? What skill can I tune in? What experience can I create? And you got to ask yourself those questions. So that would be the second box that I would ask. Now, number 3, right behind maybe growth, I would say relationships. And that might sound like an interesting one. A lot of times people separate or compartmentalize relationships. They say, well, my work is my work and my life is my life, right? I got my work friends and I got my life friends. And a lot of times people put those in 2 separate buckets. Guys, I think it's all just life. I don't think work is a separate bucket. I think life is life, and work is a big part, by definition, of the time we put in, the percentage of life we invest in. So the relationships we develop have to be ones that we value, that we find important. So it comes down to not just the what am I learning, but the who am I building relationships with, right? And relationships can be on any level. Maybe you're building relationships in your workforce that are, real friends, that are people that are there to give you emotional support, people that are there to provide camaraderie and friendship, right? Maybe there are relationships that become mentors to you, the people that add value and help you become better and impart wisdom or grow, right? Maybe they're relationships that'll open different doors when it comes to life later on, right? And people that'll introduce you to people that'll make different changes in the future. You never know. How many of you have ever had a relationship that got developed in a place that, was totally random, unexpected, and that one relationship totally changed everything? Maybe they became someone that was significant to you for a long time. Maybe they became someone that opened a door to somebody else. Right? I'm willing to bet if you look at your spouse, right, and you trace the story of how you met your spouse, right, you'll find that you never know when someone can enter your life and all of a sudden, boom, can totally change the trajectory of everything. So guys, relationships are absolutely paramount. And when it comes to your work, that is a value, right, that you're getting. That is a return that you're getting. That is a way that you're getting compensated in return. So yes, right, what type of income are you receiving because of the work that you're providing? But number two, what type of growth are you getting? Your knowledge, your skills, your experiences. Number three, what type of relationships are you able to build? And the last one I said I'd give you 4, guys, I'll have to say comes down to fulfillment. And this is an important one. When it comes to the work that we do, the best work in most alignment, right, with who you are and everything we're talking about should create some sort of fulfillment emotionally. It should fill your cup up. It should give you a feeling of receiving, a feeling of contribution. And if you haven't got that yet with the seat that you're in right now, maybe dig a little deeper, and you got to figure out, how do you tie the work you do every day to some sort of greater cause, greater purpose, greater mission, greater impact, where the work you do every day is actually contributing in some way to someone else. And the connection that you're able to make with the time you put in and the value you're able to bring to somebody maybe you see directly or see indirectly, guys, gives you a fulfillment in the effort that you're putting. So guys, those are 4 things. They're all forms of compensation. They're all forms of return. They're all ways that you can receive for the work that you put in. And I urge all of us, as we go into a time where maybe our work is changing or we're having to change work, I challenge all of us to keep at least those 4 things in mind, and there's probably more that you can add to your list. You got to make it more than just money. The money's got to be fair and it's got to get you what you need, but you got to be asking yourself right now, not only, okay, how can I make an income, but how can I grow in this process? And guys, in a time of change, that's a time where you can learn and you can grow exponentially, more, faster, further than you can in a time that is stagnant. We're in a time of growth all over the place. How can you be the sponge? How can you start to raise your skills? How can you start to use this as a way to go back to student mode and become better, pursue better, learn more, increase your skill set, your knowledge, your experience, so you can become more valuable to you and those around you? How can we establish now relationships, right? At a time where maybe relationships have all of a sudden we realize are more important than ever before. At a time where we're being challenged to disconnect physically, we're being reminded how important our relationships are emotionally. And maybe this opens a door to new friendships, to new mentors, to new people in your circles. They might stay in your circle themselves or might introduce you to somebody else. And then lastly, how do we connect the time and effort and energy? Because at the end of the day, that is all we have to give to something that can be fulfilling, to something we can have a purpose tied to. And if we ask ourselves, how can we receive our income, our growth, our relationships, and fulfillment in the seat that we're in right now? I'm willing to bet no matter what that seat is, the seat in the same company, but it's changing, or changing the seat because you have to. I'm willing to bet if you approach looking for those things in the seat that you're in, you're going to find this is an amazing time of opportunity and an amazing time where we can go and really get an awesome return, right, on the effort that we're putting in. But those are just 4 off the top of my mind, off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more to add to the list. You guys tell me which one of those 4 are ones that maybe you can work on right now, of how you can get a greater return in the work that you're doing. Go ahead and give me some feedback below of which one maybe you want to put some focus in. And maybe there's more you want to add to the list beyond just the 4. What are you looking for in your work right now? What are you giving advice to those that are maybe having to change the seat or find a new lane? What advice would you give for them to look for in the work they're pursuing beyond just? Leave the comments below. Would love to read all of your guys' feedback. And hey, if you know people right now that are in either seat, they're in a seat that's changing all around them, or they're having to change their seat, and maybe this message might resonate with them and maybe give them a lens to leap into this new changing dynamic environment with a little different perspective. Give them a tag in the comments below. Share the gift today. And as always, I appreciate our time together. Look forward to the next time we walk together. We'll try to keep it live. If you want to tune in live Monday and Wednesday around 7 a.m. Pacific, invite your friends. Would love the tribe and the squad to grow. The more perspective, the better the value, in my opinion. Until then, hope all is well. Have a great day. Here's one more view from the top. I'm going to head down until the next time we walk together. Take care, everybody.